Namaste nerds, this is Navanad, typically your budget pub stomper, but today we're going to be taking the gloves off and really going full cEdh, and I'm going to be doing my part to make Sultai great again. Back in the day in cEdh, Sultai was one of the best color combos. Then it kind of fell out of favor, and now it's making a bit of a resurgence, but it's not usually making this resurgence. It's not Armix Thrass. Now, if you've watched my videos in the past, you have probably seen the way that I do things. I typically I explain the commander, or sometimes commanders, but usually singular commander, and then we talk about the win lines, the primary win condition, and backup combos, and then we talk about individual choices and card choices, synergies, exclusions. But I think in this particular instance, I think I'm going to need to do the exclusions first, right? I think that anybody coming from a cEdh background or looking into getting into potentially even a Sultai build, I think that there's two questions I'm going to have to answer before you're going to listen to anything else I say about this list. And I'm going to try to sell you on this list because I'm convinced of it, right? First is, why not Timna? Like, why would I choose Armix over Timna? So that's not really so much about Armix as much as it's like about Timna, right? It's why not Timna is a fair question. I want to make sure that you understand it's a question that I realized I had to answer for myself. It's a question that I ask myself, and I feel like I've answered, and I'm convinced that this is the better way to run this exact deck, right? Well, I mean, obviously, but I mean, when I say this exact deck, I should say this archetype. And so basically what I'm getting at is you probably already know what Thrasios is. It's a draw engine. It's not the best rate, paying 4 mana to scry 1 and then basically draw 1 card or put a land into play. But it's a fine engine because you can activate it for colorless mana and at instant speed. And it's an infinite mana outlet in the command zone. And that's a big deal. Like that's like, if it wasn't an infinite mana outlet in the command zone, I don't think that it would see all that much play, honestly. That's the biggest thing about it. I mean, its synergies with some of the other cards in the deck are fantastic. It is really amazing to get a Seedborn Muse on board with Thrasios. But in any case, my point is, you know what Thrasios is, and you don't care what Armix is until I can explain to you why I would not play Timna. And I want to say I'm a big fan of Timna. Not so in love with the fact that she's got such a grip on the meta, so much meta share, but I do really love the card. So number one, why not Timna? And then number two, if you're coming from a cEdh background or if you're looking to get into a new cEdh deck, the second thing I'm going to have to convince you of is, why not one of the other black partners? And that's going to be, what are the other black partners that people play? Tevesh. And is it just Tevesh? I guess Tevesh is like the main one. Some players play that bird, the parrot. Oh, no offense to anybody who might be in my exact Discord. I've got a Sultai player in my Discord who plays the bird, and it's fine. But it's just not as popular. I don't think I'm gonna have to try as hard to explain why not play that frickin' parrot. But the other one I was thinking of is, why not Glarb, right? And I honestly think that if you're playing Razaketh, if you're gonna do like a deck that's in the that's a spiritual successor, that's in same kind as the old TnT Razaketh's builds, I think you should play Armix. So we're a Razaketh build, right? First and foremost, yes, we're an infinite mana deck. Obviously, I almost said TnT. Well, we're a Thrasios build, so obviously we're gonna have the infinite mana combos. But my version of the deck actually layers the Razaketh combos with the Hazel's Brewmaster combos, and then Armix becomes a piece that makes a whole lot more sense in light of that than Timna would. So let's talk about, first of all, how we win the game with Razaketh. If you've not seen it, it's kind of I mean, there's lots of ways to win the game with Razaketh, but the one that I want to talk about is like the most stripped down version. Like, what is kind of the worst case scenario? Like, what do we need in order to win the game? What's the minimum amount of resources that we can get away with. And it really literally is Razaketh on board, 2 creatures on board. That's it. You can be totally tapped out of mana. How all your lands, well, no, I guess all your lands can't be blown up. You'd have to have like 2 lands in play, or 2 lands in play, but they could be tapped. And you've got to have 2 creatures in play, and it doesn't matter what they are. And if you get this Razaketh on the battlefield, you're going to put a win condition, or a win attempt out. And I mean, as long as you're not literally that stripped down where you don't even have lands that are tapped, you're going to be able to even defend that win. So we can win from a very, very low resource state as long as we can get our Razaketh in play. So how do we do that? Well, I mean, the easiest way to put the Razaketh in play is going to be to entomb it. Just take a look at how we're doing on time. I've not done this exactly. So generally we're going to use entomb. Well, okay, generally we could use entomb reanimate. So that's, let's say we've got 2 dual lands in play. We've got a couple of dorks in play. We can cast a reanimate. We can cast an entomb. Maybe we've got our Lanor elf and our elves of deep shadow. And then we've got 2 dual lands. We cast our entomb. We put Razaketh in the graveyard. We cast our reanimate. We bring Razaketh out of the graveyard. And now we've got 2 creatures. We've got our demon. We can immediately threaten a win right there. So the line, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do the line justice or explain it, or if it even really needs to be explained here. Maybe it's something that we'll come back to. But it's basically going to be like this. Like, we're going to so if you're not familiar with Razaketh, I mean, this thing is like, Razaketh is an addictive drug, right? It's a hell of a drug. If you start using this, you're not going to want to stop. It's a flying trample 8/8. None of that matters that much. Pay 2 life, sacrifice another creature, a different creature, search your library for a card, put it in your hand. So it allows you to tutor by sacrificing your creatures. And there's no mana payment. And you can do it at instant speed, and you can do it as often as you want to. Restricted only by the amount of life that you've got left. So basically, the idea here is the stripped down version. We sacrifice a dork, and it could be your commanders. You could sacrifice your, I keep wanting to say Timna. You sacrifice your Armix, right? And you get your, the first thing so you're going to get Lion's Eye Diamond. You're going to get, what's the guy called? Cloud of Fairies. And then, okay, so we tutor our Lion's Eye Diamond. We sacrifice our dork, get LED. Put LED in play. Then we sacrifice the other dork and we find Cloud of Fairies. But before we do that, we're going to crack the Lion's Eye Diamond for blue, blue, blue. And then we're going to sacrifice the second dork, find Cloud of Fairies. Cloud of Fairies, we're going to cast off of the Lion's Eye Diamond mana. So that's going to leave 1 blue floating. But it's also going to untap our 2 dual lands. So Cloud of Fairies ETBs untaps the 2 dual lands. Now we've got 2 lands untapped. We've got 1 blue floating from the LED. We're going to sacrifice the Cloud of Fairies. We're going to find Thassa's Oracle. We're going to use 2 of our mana to cast the Thassa's Oracle. So we've got 1 floating, and it's going to be a black, well, we'll have an untapped black land. We're going to use 2 blue. So we'll tap 1 of the dual lands, and we'll use our 1 blue floating from the LED to cast Thassa's Oracle. So we've got 1 untapped black land now. We're going to put the Thassa's Oracle trigger on the stack, and we're going to hold priority. We're going to sacrifice Thassa's Oracle with our Razaketh to search for Demonic Consultation. We're going to tap the black mana. We're going to cast the Demonic Consultation with the Thassa's Oracle trigger still on the stack, even though we will have already sacrificed Thassa's Oracle. Now, we put a win on the stack from a super stripped down board state. Now, if you've got other lands in play, which likely you probably will, or if you've got other creatures in play, there's better, more protected ways to go about it, where you can search up life, death to turn all of your lands into creatures, and then you can start sacking your lands off for free counter spells or cheap counter spells depending on your exact mana state, right? So that's the kind of basic game plan of any reanimator Razaketh. Well, of this Razaketh reanimator combo deck. So yeah. Let's talk, so now that you kind of understand that, let's talk a little bit about the secondary win condition, which is going to be Devoted Druid and Hazel's Brewmasters. Now, I mean, any way we make infinite mana is going to be a secondary win. We've got Kinnan with Basalt Monolith. We've got Devoted Druid with Hazel's Brewmasters. We've got, what's the thing called? Machine God's Effigy with Devoted Druid. And all of this stuff in our particular deck layers in all together, which we'll get to. Okay, so maybe I should just talk about Armix and what exactly Armix brings to the deck. Okay, what does Armix bring to the game? What does this thing do? So this is a 3/2 for 3. It's an artifact creature. That's important. Remember that. And it says whenever you attack with this thing, you can discard a card, and if you do, target creature that the player you're attacking controls gets neg X, where X is the number of artifacts you control, plus the number of artifacts that are in your graveyard. So if you're pitching an artifact, see you have no other artifacts in play, but you move to combat and you discard an artifact, then you're going to be able to give some creature, some poor defenseless Oppo agent, neg 2. If you've got a few artifacts in play, then this guy just becomes he just turns all of your cards into deadly rollicks, basically, right? Except for like uncounterable deadly rollicks. So that's but even it just as a base state where he's only able to count himself, because he does count himself. I mean, in a world of Orcish Bowmasters, when we are a dork deck, right? It's not the worst thing to have your commander provide a little modicum of OBM insurance, because just by himself, Armix can murder as many Bowmasters as you have turns. So he can remove hate bears. So we are a dork deck, and we can just automatically get rid of Orcish Bowmasters with our commander. We're in a kind of creature, probably a fairly creature focused meta right now. Boards get gummed up. I mean, I would say in any meta game where it's not great for Najeela, it is great for Armix, right? Like if boards are so clogged up, battlefields are so clogged up that Najeela is not a top deck anymore, it might be time to bring out Armix. Hopefully you can make that connection. So your Armix can remove hate bears that could shut you down. Think Drannith Magistrate or Opposition Agent, Dauthi Voidwalker. We're like trying to play things out of our graveyard, right? It easily dispatches Magdas and Malcolms and Kinnans and Tymnas. I mean, it can feel a little bit like having a Drannith Magistrate in your command zone to play Armix, legitimately. So those are a couple of good reasons to play Armix. 3, I think we're on, 1, 2. It depends on how you look at it, but the next one is that, and this is maybe the big one. This is why I wanted to explain the combos first, or at least some of the combo lines first. Armix is a discard outlet. So where Timna doesn't add anything to our if we're doing the reanimator strategy, where we are trying to put Razaketh in the graveyard and then pull it out of the graveyard, or we're trying to put Devoted Druid in the graveyard and Hazel's Brewmaster to turn the Devoted Druid into a Devoted Druid Nugget and win the game with Thrasios. In that world, Timna doesn't add anything to that game plan. Whereas Armix allows us to discard our Devoted Druid. It's a discard outlet. Timna's not. So Timna doesn't bring anything to the strategy, and Armix adds a lot. I would say a whole lot to this exact kind of strategy. Have you heard of if you've heard of 12 entombs? So way back, I mean that wasn't that long ago, but a couple years back, when Grist first came out, there were a bunch of people working on a Hulk deck using the Planeswalker. That's only a Planeswalker when it's in play, but it's a creature in your command zone. It's a creature in any other place in your hand, whatever. But it has a couple of abilities that help with the Hulk strategy. First, it's a sacrifice outlet, and second, it allows you to take cards off the top of your deck and mill them into your graveyard. So they came out with this list called 12 Entombs, and the idea was that Grist would functionally turn every top deck tutor into a copy of Entomb for your Hulk deck. Well, in this deck, Armix does the same thing, It turns all of our top deck tutors into entombs when we need them to be, but it also turns all of our two-hand tutors into entombs. I mean, we can easily go like demonic tutor for Razaketh and throw the Razaketh at somebody's Drannith Magistrate, and then bring the Razaketh back out of the graveyard and then win with, I was trying to think of a combo that Drannith would shut off. Well, like maybe we don't have our Thrasios in play yet, and so we have to play our Thrasios to somehow sink the infinite mana from Kinnan and Basalt, you know. Another reason, and so these are things that Tymna can't bring, right? Tymna, also using this exact strategy, we get to play Demonic Council as a card that we literally want to play. Our number one search target in the deck is Razaketh, and aside from that, our commander, Armix, very easily gets us to Delirium. So that's another thing, is it turns on our Delirium. So that we can just use this as a second copy of Demonic Tutor. Basically, Demonic Council almost always is a second copy of Demonic Tutor in this deck. It's going to power up cards like Demonic Council and 6. Like, 6 is a powerful card. I don't know if you guys have played with this or seen it in play, but it's kind of busted. But it's more busted in this deck than it is in your deck. That's what I'm going to say. Like, my dad, not only could my dad beat your dad in arm wrestling, but my 6 could beat your 6 in magicking. No doubt about it, man. Like, I can throw whatever I want into the bin, and I've got 6. This is a nice little engine, and it turns into not just a value engine out of the graveyard, but also a removal engine for all of the things that I don't want to deal with. Basically, anything I don't want to deal with is 86. And there's other cards in the deck that are kind of like that, right? Like it's gonna power up our Malevolent Hermit. Just as an example, because I know that the first argument about playing TnT, aside from having like an extra value engine in the command zone for drawing extra cards with Timna, is going to be we don't get the silence effects, your Ranger Captain, your Grand Abolisher, but we get Malevolent Hermit and Spellskite to maybe a slightly lesser degree, you know. But yeah, we get Spellskite, we get Malevolent Hermit. Now imagine this. So yes, obviously Grand Abolisher is a better magic card than Malevolent Hermit, although this isn't as bad as you think. I put this in the deck because I was playing Armix, and since then I've started playing it just in blue decks. It's just a good card. You can just cast it, and then you've got an uncounterable counterspell. And this acts like mostly a very nasty stacks piece, but also if you were in a competition, it acts like an oops, I gotcha kind of a card, where somebody forgets that you've got it in play, and they cast an ad nauseum, and they've only got 1 mana behind, and you pay a blue mana, sacrifice your Malevolent Hermit, and now you counter that 9-creature spell unless its controller can pay 3 mana, and they don't have it, right? But very often what you're going to do with it is you're going to throw it into the graveyard with Armix, and we've got a ton of artifacts. I mean, we've got, we're going to have a lot of artifacts in play. Now this is probably going to be a controversial thing. I'm not embarrassed in that I think it's wrong. I'm embarrassed that I think that people will think that it's wrong. I am quite confident that 28 lands, one of them being an artifact land is the way to run this. And like with Armix, you'd have to play the deck, I think, to get this. But if you draw too many lands, well, let's just say in the exact worst case, like, oh great, I drew this Vault of Whispers, I knew I shouldn't have played this thing. You just turn it into a deadly relic. You know, if you've got 2 artifacts in play, plus your Armix is 3, plus you throw the Vault of Whispers into the graveyard is 4, you're taking out just about anything. Or it's a land, you know, so it kind of almost feels like an MDFC in the deck. But the point is we've got a really high artifact count. We're going to have a lot of artifacts in play, including our commander. So we're going to be able to turn Malevolent Hermit, the front side, into a deadly relic the lion's share of times, almost always. I mean, there's times where recently I've had to decide whether or not it makes sense to murder somebody's Lumra with my Armix, and that's a big bear, right? And I've also had to decide, should I or should I not kill what's that damn dinosaur called? Atali. And I elected not to kill Atali, but the fact of the matter is, with my Armix, I could well have killed Atali. So it's not at all hard. It's not like Magic Christmas Land to get Armix to the point where it's powered up and you're chucking cards into the graveyard that you want in the graveyard to give target creature neg 6, neg 7, neg 8. It's not like a fairy tale. It happens every time you play, virtually always, especially in like mid-rangey games, right? Now, if you're not familiar with Malevolent Hermit, the backside is kind of what we're more interested in. You can cast this from the graveyard for its disturbed cost, which is 2 colorless and a blue. And when you do, you get your little Grand Abolisher. It's a 2/2 flying, doesn't matter. Spirit Wizard says non-creature spells you control can't be countered. Non-creature spells that you control can't be countered. Nasty, right? That's it's Grand Abolisher Light. Spellskite is another artifact that's not in the artifact countdown here, but can also do a pretty good impression of a Grand Abolisher in a lot of situations. So we're not like just defenseless. And I would argue that Malevolent Hermit, in the context of this deck, is a more powerful Magic card than Grand Abolisher in the context of your TnT deck. This is a blue and a colorless, but more likely it's 2 colorless and a blue to get the backside, and it comes with a Deadly Rollick stapled to it. Pretty good, right? And uncounterable. Doesn't matter if you can. I mean, it's neg X, so it is going to get the job done. And it's an ability of a creature, so it's not going to get counterspelled, and nobody plays Stifles, right? So yeah, that's kind of my arguments for Armix. It's going to do a good job of doing Hate Bear Drive-bys. There was a deck, Armix Crom, back in the day, that was called Hate Bear Drive-by, and I kind of named my deck in the spirit of paying homage to the old deck, Hate Bear Drive-by. This is Sushi Drive-by, also paying homage to the old Sushi Hulk builds. We've got Thrasios, we've got Thoracle, we've got plenty of fish in the deck, fish enough to call the deck Sushi Drive-by, and this is your guy performing a lot of the drive-bys. Yeah, basically in a world of OBMs, having a modicum of OBM insurance in a dork deck cannot be a bad thing. It easily dispatches some of the squishier amongst our opponent's real powerful commanders, like their Kinnons and their Magdas. It's a discard outlet, so it actually plays directly into our strategy. And it powers up cards like Demonic Council, 6, Malevolent Hermit, so on. And we want to play these artifacts anyway. So basically I'd say like maybe the next, I don't know what number I was on, but like maybe PowerPoint number 6 or 5 or whatever, is that it's going to be easily layering in a deck that already wants these effects anyway. Because the whole thing does layer. There's if you've never played a reanimator strategy, there's basically like 3 parts to it. There's number 1, put your thing in the graveyard. So there's 1, put the thing in the bin. 2, reanimate the thing. And sometimes there's 3, murder the thing, which that would be more a Protean Hulk thing. We're not doing Protean Hulk, although it's in the sideboard. We're doing Razaketh. So really there's just two parts. Put the thing in the bin and then reanimate the thing. Sometimes there's hoops to jump through, but in this deck the hoops have 2 creatures and 2 lands in play. That's it. That's your hoops. And all of our 2-hand tutors and on top of deck tutors are essentially entombs, along with our copy of Entomb is an entomb. There's more. I'm not done making the case for Armix over Tymna in the reanimator shell, in this reanimator shell. Number whatever I'm on, Armix is a 3 CMC artifact. And that matters, and it doesn't matter a little bit, it matters a lot. It matters that it's an artifact, and it also matters that it's a 3 CMC artifact. So it can be Eldritch Evolutioned or Neoformed, either one, into Hazel's Brewmasters, which is kind of a big deal. Now, yeah, Timna does allow you to do the same thing. Alright, so maybe that's not a reason to play this over Timna, but it's another cool thing about the deck. Yeah, Armix is a 3 CMC artifact creature, though Timna is not. So aside from being a 3 CMC creature, the fact that he's a 3 CMC artifact creature means that you can cast Tansmute Artifact, and you can put directly into the battlefield Basalt Monolith. So 3 mana for our Armix. He's in play. He's doing work. We're murdering hate bears. We're doing stuff with it. We cast our Tansmute Artifact, and we can replace our Armix with Basalt Monolith, which, if we've got Kinnan in play, that's end of the game. That's or at least that's putting a win on the stack, right? Or for 1 extra mana, you can do the same thing with Machine God's Effigy. Timna does not turn into Basalt Monolith. Timna doesn't turn into Machine God's Effigy. So we get to play an extra 2 battlefield tutor that can exactly get our win conditions. The B's to our A's or the A's to our B's. And if you don't happen to have any A's or B's, like if you don't have a Kinnan in hand or on the battlefield, and if you don't have a Devoted Druid, mind you, you're always just 1 tutor away. So if you don't have a Kinnan, you don't have a Devoted Druid, and you don't have a tutor to grab Kinnan or Devoted Druid, you can easily turn Armix into the One Ring, and we are a sick One Ring deck. We've got Crop Rotation. I've got Manamo. How do I say this? Well, we've got Dol Amrath, right? We've got this card in play or in the deck. We've got Crop Rotation. We can turn our Armix into the One Ring by paying 1 additional mana. No big deal. So for 3 mana, we have a 2 battlefield tutor for the One Ring. An extra one, right? One that Timna can't do that. We also, aside from having Manamo, we've got Seedborn Muse, and I would argue we're a hell of a Seedborn Muse deck. And I don't even think I mentioned this, but you can also Eldritch Evolution your Armix into a Seedborn Muse, which, again, I understand Timna can do that also. But so maybe I'm not making so much an argument about why not Timna with that. But making a really good case for the deck all the same. If you put Seedborn Muse down with Basalt Monolith and I keep wanting to say Tymna, Thrasios, I mean, it's if you get 1 lap around the table like that, you've basically won the game. It's going to be very, very hard for you to not win that game. What are some other positives about... I should have written this stuff down. Some positives about Armix over Tymna, because this is important to me. I'm a believer, and I was skeptical, and I did come to this deck thinking, like, I'm going to lean into the Armix side of the strategy, and because I don't want to just be playing a worse version of TnT, so I did lean into Armix a bit, thinking it's either going to work, or I'm just going to know that TnT is the better way to go, and it works. I've had a lot of success with this deck. I've got a good record with it. I don't want to be all braggy, but the deck it's good. In fact, I'm going to say that when I stopped playing my pirates, like Tymna pirates, which I have done very well with, even I have a good tournament pedigree with it. When I stopped playing that and hopped into this deck, I kind of felt like a power boost. Like, oh my God, what have I been doing? I've been missing out on the kind of raw power of Sultai. And maybe I did get off to a little bit of it's a high variance game, and I had a very good start on the deck. But it does really busted very powerful things. It has like a lot of just good cards and also a lot of good synergies. Where was I? Reasons to play Armix. Have I not convinced you yet? Are you not sold yet that if you are going to play Razaketh, that Tymna is not the route, that Armix is a better route, and that Glarb is right out? Fuck Glarb. And Tevesh, 5 mana, and it's really just effectively doing the same thing, just drawing cards. You want to build around one or the other, right? So build around Thrasios. Having 2 card draw engines in the command zone is a little bit redundant anyway. And I mean that, like, you have to make a decision when you're deck building, and then you also have to make decisions when you're playing. And it's really hard for your deck building and your playing to support drawing cards with 2 separate commanders. I just don't think that you need 2 card drawing commanders. So that's another little bit of an argument. But it turns on Armix turns on Mox Opal. It counts as another artifact. So in this deck, because we are playing some extra artifacts, not extra, but when in doubt, we went with the artifact version of an effect. And if we weren't sure if we should be on a card or not on a card, like Vexing Bauble is one of my backup Grand Abolishers at home, I did choose the artifact to power up Armix. And so all of that, including the Armix, makes Mox Opal very, very close to just having a Mox in your deck. Also, Armix casts off a Dark Ritual. The 2 colorless and 1 black is better than white, black, 1, and it allows you not just to power it off a Dark Ritual, but just you've got more flexibility in the way that you spend your mana. But yeah, I would say Soul Ring and Swamp, right? Cast this. You can't do that with Timna. It's easier to cast by kind of a lot. Now I don't know if this is kind of going over the top or double dipping or being too meta, but another really cool thing about playing Armix in the command zone that you cannot do with Timna is it allows you to cut your creature removal. So it sort of frees up slots in the main deck. I'm not playing any pure creature removal in the deck, and I think that's actually correct. Now, I did make some concessions. I played a couple of cards that maybe I wouldn't play if I were playing creature removal. An Abrupt Decay. I even had Assassin's Trophy. I think that's a bridge too far. But Abrupt Decay and Cyclonic Rift, although, we do make a ton of mana in the deck, and if we ever get out Seedborn Muse, it's very, very easy to overload Psych Rift. But just having a couple more ways to take care of any permanent, but it does include creatures, I thought was kind of necessary. And also, I think probably if I were playing a bunch of creature removal in the deck, maybe I would be a little bit lower on. I was thinking I was on Mana Drain, but I think maybe I did already cut that. Yeah, I've definitely been back and forth on that one. Yeah, cool. So never mind that. We're not playing it anyway. So we're only really playing two mana removal pieces, and they are pieces that remove creatures, but also pieces that can remove other than creatures. But basically, we don't have to play Deadly Rollicks because we're turning all of our cards into Deadly Rollicks. Any card you draw essentially becomes a Deadly Rollick in the context where you need or want a Deadly Rollick. That's my pitch. Okay, now I want to just get into some of the strengths. How are we doing on time? Yeah, about time to wrap it up. I want to talk about some of the tricks in the deck. Now I'm going to try to just win you over on the deck itself. We've got tricks. Number 1, Survival of the Fittest, and this is one place where all of the different plans in the deck sort of come together in this one card. Survival. If we resolve Survival, we're probably going to win the game with this deck. You can't let us. Just generally, you can't let Survival of the Fittest resolve, but in this deck, you really cannot let this card resolve. It's a 1-card win. So just to go through the easiest line, and there's lots of them, but I could pitch any creature to get Devoted Druid to hand. Then I can pay a green mana, discard Devoted Druid to find Hazel's Brewmaster. Then so now I've got Devoted Druid in the graveyard. I cast my Hazel's Brewmaster. I make infinite mana. I draw my deck and win the game with Finale of Devastation, or any of the many ways to win the game once you've drawn your deck. We've got Thoracle Consult, whatever. Draw your deck, cast your Thoracle. Draw your deck, Finale of Devastation, your opponents to death. So we get to use the 1-card win condition of Survival. Also, we could pitch, instead of doing the Devoted Druid, we could pitch a Dork to find Razaketh, pitch the Razaketh to search for Hazel's Brewmaster. So that's the thing you might not have thought of. So let me say that again. We pitch any Dork to find Razaketh. We discard the Razaketh to the survival of the fittest to find Hazel's Brewmaster. We cast the Hazel's Brewmaster to make a nice tasty raspberry cupcake, a nice tasty Razaketh flavored nut, a Raz nut. So Hazel's Brewmaster says, when it enters the battlefield or attacks, exile up to one target card from a graveyard and create a food token. Foods you control have all activated abilities of all creatures that were exiled with Hazel's Brewmaster. That means that if we exile Razaketh with the ETB of Hazel, we create a food token that gives us the power of Razaketh. And in fact, it means all of our food tokens. If we make more food tokens, our little baby Razakeths. So we can assemble that kind of backup combo off of survival of the fittest. So we've got multiple like layered, basically one card wins with survival of the fittest in this deck, which I think is super sweet. It's fun. It's big brain, giga brain, feels good when you do it in game. We make a demon nut. Eldritch Evolution for Devoted Druid. Okay, so let's say you've got your Devoted Druid in play. Sorry, losing my voice. Been on for a bit. Devoted Druid, you cast Eldritch Evolution. Your Eldritch Evolution sacrifices Devoted Druid, and you find Eternal Witness. Then you cast the Eternal Witness, picking up the Eldritch Evolution, and then you cast the Eldritch Evolution again to turn the Eternal Witness into Hazel's Brewmaster, win the game. Or you can do the same exact thing with Neoform. Alright. So, let me go through that again. We've got Devoted Druid in play. We've got Neoform. We cast the Neoform, sacrificing Devoted Druid. So now Devoted Druid is in the graveyard, and Neoform is in the graveyard. We can search our library for any 3 CMC creature card and put it directly into play. That's going to be Eternal Witness. Eternal Witness comes into play, and it kind of regrows our Neoform. Then we cast the Neoform again on Eternal Witness. We sacrifice the Eternal Witness to find Hazel's Brewmaster. Hazel's Brewmaster ETBs, making a food token copy of Devoted Druid, and that food token copy of Devoted Druid goes infinite mana, and we win the game with Thrasios. Sick, right? So we've got tricks. We've definitely got tricks. Basically, we can neo the D-Druid into Ewit, and we can neo the Ewit into Brewmasters and win the game on the spot. And we've got all these layers where all of these cards just play so well together. Basalt Monolith with Kinnan, Basalt with Seedborn Muse, the One Ring with Armix, the One Ring with Seedborn Muse, all of the mana outlets with Thrasios and Thrasios with the One Ring. You're gonna have you're not gonna be mana flooded. So most of the time, if you make a tremendous amount of mana, the bottleneck becomes the card draw. But in this deck, if you make a tremendous amount of mana, you're also drawing a tremendous amount of cards. It usually means you've got Seedborn Muse or something like that. Or if you've got infinite mana, you just win the game. So if you have Seedborn Muse and the Ring, then you've basically entered this situation where you don't have a bottleneck, right? Like either card draw or mana production has to be your bottleneck. If you have Seedborn Muse in play with the One Ring, in a dork deck, in this deck specifically, you've basically entered there is no spoon territory. You've become Neo in the Matrix. Alright, that is my elevator pitch on why you should play Armix instead of Tymna in your reanimator deck. And hopefully that just automatically included why you should not play one of the other black partners, and why you should not play Glarb, why you should play exactly Armix and Thrasios. Play what you want to play, guys. Play what you love, but this is my doctoral thesis defense. That I really do think this is a very good deck. I've had great success with it, and I think it's very well positioned in the meta. Till next time, word to your mothers and your brothers and your fathers and your mothers, if I haven't said that already. East side until the day that I die on the west side. Peace be with you and also with you. Not so much you. You know you are. And namaste, nerds.